this thing called ideal client, which is quite a concept, a business concept to get your head round. When I first started up my training business a couple of years ago, just at the beginning of lockdown, I'd had my wedding cake business for quite a few years. But it wasn't until lockdown that I started getting into business networks and, training and all sorts of things, that I heard about this term, ideal client. And in the last 2 years, I've had a couple of, or quite a few sort of levels of input on it from various different business people who know a lot more about it than I do, but I will give you a sort of an overview of it this evening. But when you start to delve into this idea of ideal client, it makes an awful lot of sense. And it's really something that you should think about for your own business. So I've got my notes here. There's a blog that's available on my website. The link for it will come up at about 8 o'clock, I think, in the group. So if you want to read what I'm telling you, then that'll be there. I know some people prefer reading to listening, don't they? So, but I've got my notes here. So, because otherwise, you know what happened if otherwise I would just go off on a tangent and be here for hours talking about all sorts of nonsense. So I make myself follow my notes here. So the idea of the ideal client is based on the concept that as a business, you can't appeal to everybody. You can't, you shouldn't just think, oh, I want to sell to everybody and base your products at everybody. Because if you do that, if you try and focus on everybody, you end up focusing on no one. Because what your potential customers will do is they won't see what they specifically need in you, and they'll go to someone else that gives them what they specifically need. I'll explain this more as I go on. So let's think about, my business, my wedding cake business. So already I'm narrowing down my audience because I'm just aiming at people who want to buy a wedding cake. Okay, so that's narrowed it down slightly already. But even within that, even within the whole spectrum of people that are engaged and are going to have a wedding and want a cake, there are so many different variables and so many different types of people, ages of people, types of wedding, types of cake. If I tried to appeal to everybody, I'd end up sort of not appealing to many people. The people that come to me or ask me for a consultation are generally people that have seen the type of cake that I make. They've seen my website, or they've seen my Instagram, or they've seen my Pinterest, and they think that's the type of cake I want. So I'm going to go to this person and see if they can do me something in that style. Okay. And if you do follow my Instagram or Facebook, or you've seen my website, you'll see the kinds of things. I mean, some of them up here, sort of quite classic, round cakes usually, although I do square as well. Sugar flowers, Bob's your uncle. That kind of cake is my main thing. And that's the kind of cake, that's the kind of customer I'm aiming at. Someone who wants that kind of classic kind of style. So I don't get people asking me if I will make a black cake with red skulls and a Gothic style. I never get requests for those. I never get requests for the really contemporary, angled concrete kind of cakes. I never get asked for those, because people that want those types of cakes generally Google and Pinterest and all that, and they find people that specialize in those types of things. So it's a question of knowing the type of person that you're appealing to. My ideal client are generally sort of mid to late 20s, early 30s. generally professional couples, usually haven't got any children, though that doesn't really make too much of a difference with things. And I've even drilled down into the kinds of shops that the bride shops at, and the type of programs and films that they like, all to get a feeling of these people that I'm trying to sell to. And that sort of reflects in the messaging, in the colors that I use, in the types of images, even down to the kind of fonts that you use will appeal to those kind of people. You know, to exaggerate a bit, I wouldn't use a font that had sort of, you know, that dripping blood kind of font. That wouldn't match at all, because it's not my vibe. You know, a wedding cake maker that specializes in those Gothic types of cakes might well use that kind of font, because that's the kind of person that they are trying to appeal to. So think about the kind of person that you're trying to appeal to. It doesn't mean that you're excluding everybody else, but it does mean that you're just focusing in attracting those kind of people. You know, if you've got a website or a Facebook page, you want someone to land on it and go, oh, that's exactly what I want. That picture there, that's exactly what I'm after. That's the kind of thing that you're aiming for. So, you know, you might not be a cake maker, you might be at, you know, treat boxes or markets or something like that. So think about the kind of people that you're appealing to. Are you appealing to, you know, busy families, mums, dads, children? So if you're doing a market stall, if you're appealing to families, you're going to have something that will appeal to the children. You'll have something that appeal to mum and dad, for example. Or are you, you know, if you're appealing to, I don't know, the more mature members of the society, she said, being quite diplomatic, you're going to be baking the kinds of, I mean, my parents, who are in their 80s, in fact, Dad's 90 now, you know, there's certain kinds of foods and things that they will like, and certain things that, I mean, cookie pies, they probably wouldn't go anywhere near. But they love, you know, the Victoria sponges and the lemon drizzles and the fruit cakes and those kind of things. So that would appeal to them. So think about who it is that you're aiming your main message at. Who is it you want to look at your website or your Facebook and go, that's exactly what I'm after. Okay. So I tried to think of a scenario, a non-cake related scenario, so that you sort of get the idea from the customer's point of view. So I came up with balloons. Let's say that you're someone in your family, could be a sibling or it could be a child, is having a 21st birthday, and you are after a balloon display with a 21 and some like gold and silver or, you know, glittery types of balloons. So you go online and you Google balloon displays or whatever it is, you know, helium balloons or something. And you have a look at a couple of websites that come up, and perhaps one of them, you go onto it and it's got a couple of pictures of singular balloons. And in the corner somewhere, it might say, we do displays. You know, you're not going to be particularly bothered about that, are you? But if you click on one website and there on the front page is exactly what it is you've got in your head, the 21, the, you know, the balloons all around, and it says they deliver and you need it to be delivered because you know, you either don't drive or you whatever, that is going to be perfect. They are aiming exactly at you. And because it's exactly what you need, you are likely to perhaps be willing to pay a little bit more than you know, a website that says you know, yes, you can choose this, this and this and put it together yourself and come and get it. You know, you're going to pay a little bit more for exactly what it is you need. Okay. And it's all to do with solving a problem. Business is about solving your customers' problems, finding what issues or challenges they have and solving them. So in my, with wedding cakes, my solution that I offer is I can make you a wedding cake for your perfect day. You don't have to do that yourself. You don't have to get a family member to do that for you, because I can do that for you. Yeah. If you're, you specialize in birthday cakes, the solution you're offering is you don't have to make that cake yourself. You don't have to spend hours looking up recipes and looking up designs and learning how to do this, that, and the other, because I can already do that for you. If your child wants a Minecraft or whatever it is cake, we won't go into copyright here, but you know what I mean. You don't have to spend hours and hours worrying about it. Just ask me to do it. I can do that for you. So it's taking your customers' problem and solving it for them. Okay. So as I said before, if they look at your website and see exactly what it is they need, bingo, problem solved. This is the person that I need. Yeah. And then it's budgeting. Once you've sorted out who your ideal client is, you can also then aim your price bracket. You can, once obviously you've worked out your pricing, you can then make sure that you're aiming your products at the types of people that will pay what you need them to pay to make a profit, if that makes sense. Okay. So, saying that so-and-so down the road is doing it £5 cheaper, well, they might do, but they're aiming at different people to you. You're aiming at people that want this, 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 and this. Do you see where I'm going with this? So let's talk about analogies here. I love analogies. I'm often talking about Lidl and Harrods, although I suppose it's really, because Harrods isn't really a grocer's, it's Fortnum and Mason, isn't it? That Fortnum and Mason, that is the London by appointment to the Queen grocer. So you've got Lidl and you've got Fortnum and Mason. Okay. They both sell food. They're both at the bottom, the bottom line is they're both grocers. They both sell food that people eat. Okay. But of course, they're completely different ends of the spectrum, aren't they? They aim their messaging at completely different people. Where they aim their messaging is completely different. Lidl use TV. Lidl will put billboards, adverts on billboards. They might put adverts on buses. Fortnum and Mason, you wouldn't see them anywhere near any of that. I'm guessing that Fortnum and Mason will advertise in perhaps high-end magazines like Tatler and Vanity Fair. I say I'm guessing because I'm not their ideal customer. I don't ever see it because I don't use those I don't read those kind of magazines. But that would be the kind of place that they would put their messaging, because they're aiming it at that kind of person. That is their ideal customer. Okay. And I'd be willing to bet, in fact, this is quite a fun game, going up to London and going into Harrods or Fortnum's or all these sort of high-end places, and looking at the price tags and going, how much? How much for a packet of biscuits? And I should think that the people that work there and the managers, in these places, hear that constantly, absolutely constantly, 50 quid for this. What are you doing? I can get it for Lidl's, for a £5, whatever. But they don't, run around going, oh, perhaps we should reduce our prices then because so-and-so said it's not, it's not cheap enough. Of course they don't do that. They know that they have a certain customer that will pay that will be able to afford that. So they're not going to worry about the people, the how much people. They're just going to concentrate on those people that they know can afford what they do. So it, when we have in our Facebook group and people say, oh, I got feedback from a customer that my quote was too high. Should I reduce my price? No, you should not. Think about those people in that Fortnum and Mason in London. They do not budge an inch, because they know that person that's screamed how much isn't their ideal customer, and they aim what they do at the people that will be able to afford what they're asking for their goods. Okay. And another analogy, which I used actually in the group this week, someone was talking about quotes and am I too high? I talked about my car, and the fact that, ideal world, money no object, I'd probably go for something like a BMW, because it sounds good, doesn't it? I've got a BMW. But funds didn't run to that when I got my car last year, so I got a Ford Focus instead. Lovely car, love my car. He's called Lawrence and he's lovely. But it would be fairly pointless me standing in BMW showroom saying, this is dreadful, these prices are far too high, I think you should bring your prices down. What kind of reception am I going to get if I do that? Ridiculous. And they won't reduce their prices because Ford showroom down the road is far cheaper than they are. Of course they don't, because they know they have a customer base and a following. They know what their messaging is. They know who they're aiming their messaging at, and they know that these people will buy from them. They have confidence that what they do appeals to certain people and they will buy. I think the problem is with a lot of baking businesses, when you're first starting out, it's really difficult to accept that and to build your customer base. It's all to do with building an audience. You've got to build a following of people that know you, like you, and trust you. I'm always talking about know, like, and trust. Once you have people that are loyal to you, they are going to be willing to pay for what you offer because they know it. They love it. They love you. They know how you work. They have confidence in what you do, and they're not going to risk going down the road to save a couple of quid for with someone that they're not sure of. They're going to stick with you because they know you. Okay, and this is how all these big companies work. They know that they've got a loyal base that will buy from them. So, as I mentioned before, think about the solution that you offer to customers. So if you're perhaps a treat box or a market stall trader, think about the type of customer that you're aiming at and what type of solution you are offering. Are you offering, easy, you don't have to worry about your child's birthday party because I can provide all the cakes. Are you aiming at, busy parents? You're saving them a lot of time. Are you aiming? I used to sell at a market in Brighton, and it was sort of fairly near the train station. And so there were lots of commuters who would go by at certain times of the day, and they'd want sort of a snack to go with their coffee. So I would make, cookies, which are, holdable and nibbleable. If I offered sort of big gooey things that needed a fork, they wouldn't have, that wouldn't have appealed to them at all. They needed something that they could eat on the go while they went to get their train. So I was appealing to that kind of buyer. Okay. So are you appealing to, if you make birthday cakes, are you appealing to people who want, their child has asked for this certain type of cake? Yes, you can do it for them. They look on your website, that's the kind of cake that my little Jimmy was asking for. So I'm going to ask this person to make it for me. And if it's exactly what they want, they're more likely, I'm not going to say it's definite because it never is, but they're more likely to be willing to pay a little bit more because it's exactly what they want. Yeah. And of course they know what you can offer them through all your messaging, all your social media, all your, if you pay for advertising through that, Otherwise, it's just your audience, your general audience building on social media. Let them get to know you. Let them get to know what you do. Let them see what you do. You know, I do quite a few, you know, how I make my flowers and, you know, how I, you know, cake recipes, that kind of thing. So I let them sort of see the backstage, if you like, of what I do. And obviously I show them, you know, my wedding cakes when they're set up and that kind of thing. So they can visualize, oh, I want that at my wedding. That's exactly what I want at my wedding. You know, that's the kind of vision I have in my head. So it's a case of appealing to people. That's what Ideal Customer is sort of about. I mean, there's so much more than that. You know, people have written dissertations on this. So it is highly complicated, but the bottom line is, the basic line is, know who it is you're aiming your goods at. Who is it you want to look at your website or Facebook and say, that is exactly what I need? Okay. I mean, if I had a website that just said I sell cake on it, people would, you know, probably go elsewhere. They wouldn't necessarily delve any further. But if they clicked on my website, which they do, and they see my cakes, my wedding cakes pop straight up, that's it. That's what I want, that kind of thing. And they're in and they're contacting me asking for a consultation. Okay. So have a think about that. Have a think about that. It doesn't mean that people outside your ideal customer idea won't contact you for things, but it just means that you can be a bit more focused. And when people do reject you, I hate using the word reject because it's so negative, but when people, you know, ghost you or say no thank you, or oh, you're too expensive, you can say, oh, I've probably got that about right then. Because if everybody that you give a quote to says yes, that's fine, the chances are that you're not charging enough. Okay. You've got to think about, you know, making a profit. Certainly don't bring your prices down to what the customer has asked. No. Smacks of desperation, for one thing. You've got to hold, you know, you've got to get confident. I know it's difficult when you start your business because you want the business. But in the long run, it will pay dividends. If you stick to your guns and say, no, this is what I do, this is who I'm aiming at, these are my prices, you work on the quality of what you do and get it absolutely, you know, spot on, then people will see that it's worth paying money for and worth paying what you ask for. So that's the idea of ideal customer. So glasses back on so I can read. So there we have it. So that's what we're talking about. Do have a look at my blog, which is basically all I've waffled on about, but written down. And I will put this recording up on YouTube if you want to have another look, but I'll also put it in the guides of the group as well, as I do with all the others. So if you needed to have another look, you can. So yes, so that's this week's message. As I've just said, there won't be a live next week because I should be sunning myself, probably getting sunburned because I sunburn so easily. I have to wear lots of hats and caftans and things. But the week after, what am I doing the week after? Oh, yes, I think I'm going to do a session, you know, a mindset session, perhaps focusing on, I've seen a couple of people in the group saying, oh, I'm not sure I've done the right thing. Is this business really worth it? And having a bit of a dip. So I will do a session on, you know, how to get yourself out of a dip, how to build your confidence up, and how to keep going when, you know, when everything looks like it's going wrong. So that's what I'll talk about in 2 weeks' time. And it'll be back to the Wednesday, whatever the Wednesday is, 22nd, I think. Yes. It's really helped. Oh, good. I'm glad it's helped on. But yes, I do like doing the mindset stuff as well, because it's a minefield, this small business lark, isn't it? You know, one minute you can have, you know, lots of requests for orders, and you know, you're all swaggy and brilliant, and then the next minute perhaps you've had a complaint, and you know, whatever, and things are going wrong, and you just want to, you know, curl up in a ball, don't you? All perfectly normal. But I shall have a bit of a talk about that, because I know a little bit about that. Anyway, I've got to go because I've got some more training myself at 8. So I've got to go and be involved with that. Have a lovely week. In fact, have a lovely 2 weeks. I will be around. I'll still be, you know, in and out the group and things, even though I'm away. I perhaps won't be as involved, but I still will be around. So yeah, so if you need me for anything, do pop a note. It might take me a little bit longer to answer, but I will be around. Okay, so I will let you know. I dare say you'll see some pictures if you follow me on various things. I will post some pictures up of my lovely time, which is going to be lovely because the weather's going to be about 30 degrees all week, apparently. Hurrah! Which is rather splendid. So I'm waffling now. I shall go and leave you to it. Have a lovely week, and I will see you in 2 weeks' time. All right. Take care then, everybody. Toodaloo.